One question we get a lot is that if you make a handbook or knowledge base in a company, what tools should you use? There's two options. You can use a static website, version controlled in Git, or you can use a wiki. And in general, a wiki is easier to get to use in the beginning. Like there's a shorter learning curve, but a static website allows you to make big changes without big changes and have more control. It's really hard to compare the two, but today we're talking with Paul Mackel, and Paul went from using a static website to now using a wiki. So he might be able to articulate the differences. Thanks, Paul. You want to talk about what's the pros and cons of each?
Sure, thanks, Sid. One of the advantages of having the static website is having really strong version control. And that really helps when you have a handbook that's you want to have in place for a long period of time. At GitLab, when we think of the handbook, we think of something that will be there hopefully forever, at least as long as the company is. And that gives the ability for anyone to take a look at what happened previously, no matter how far back that happened. The other big advantage of especially the way that we did it at GitLab, was that we could have issues and commentary around changes that we were going to make in the static website itself. And so when you can go back and you can look at what led to that change in GitLab and realize here's why we made that change and what the context was around it. And that's very helpful. Wikis are very easy to use, but it's really hard to recreate the history and create something that is permanent, that people feel like will be there forever. And so it becomes something that people do quickly, but then leave and don't routinely update it.
Thanks for that. What also strikes me as hard to do is like reorganizing stuff. If you decide on a certain structure and it turns out you have to move stuff around, with a static website, you can see, oh, I removed it here and will be added there. With a wiki, I don't think you have that control. Is that something that's top of mind for you?
It hasn't yet, but I expect that I'll be encountering that difficulty. Solving that problem now by hopefully putting in the right structure at the beginning, but that will only last so long before we found out that we've made a mistake. But absolutely, you want to have something that can move around and be able to have that history so you can figure out where it went.
One of the advantages of a static website with version control might be that people can make a PR or an MR, they can make a proposal, and that you split the work of like making the proposal from approving it. Because the people who like can oversee things typically are very busy, and they get many proposals, so they can't write all of that, but it's easier to review. Have you seen a difference there where people kind of feel more empowered? Like you can easily make a proposal, where in a wiki there might be reluctance because your change is live immediately?
Yeah, so typically in a wiki environment, there will be an owner of that page, and that owner controls all changes that are made to the page. And that can be efficient in terms of not allowing changes in that would make an undesirable change, but it removes the ability for people to contribute. And that's an important feature of a static website where you have a strong version control, is that anybody can make a proposal and then that proposal can be accepted or not. And that review process is really important, but allows that contribution to be made and acted upon.
Thanks for that. An advantage of wikis is that it's more WYSIWYG. It's easier to comprehend. You don't have this whole version control dance with approving merge requests or PRs. How have you seen that affect other coworkers? How do you experience it after becoming familiar with static websites?
Yeah, the convenience is nice. So it is easier for people to start to engage and create those pages and have some pretty quick wins. But I think the longer term objective is to create a document that an organization can build a foundation on. And without really the strong version control and the tracking, that will start to be counterproductive. And you really need to have something that has a little bit more process around it, so that when you're at 4,000 wikis in an organization, you're not going to be able to track all of the changes that happened or see why something happened. And when you're, for example, a public company, you would have some pretty major underlying changes to fundamental concepts within that handbook, and a wiki just won't allow you to do that.
Cool. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for this, Paul.
Sure.